So now we will talk about the criteria in choosing appropriate assessment tools. Assessment tools are important to assess students' achievement in the target outcomes. There are things to be considered in choosing appropriate assessment tools, which are the goals of assessment, methods of assessment, either direct or indirect, and the interval in giving assessment. Direct methods, examples are examinations, written assignments, oral presentations and performances, capstones, project, theses and dissertations, etc. While indirect method are surveys of students and alumni, exit interviews with graduating students, reflective essays, etc.
Characteristic in selecting appropriate assessment tools, whether conventional or ICT-based assessment. What is conventional assessment? It is grading and screening purposes necessitate measuring. The focus of the test item is on recalling discrete fact rather than problem solving. How about the ICT-based assessment? Use of ICT in assessment involves the use of digital device to assist in the construction, delivery, storage, or reporting of students. Assessment, task, response, grade, or feedback. So what is the characteristic in selecting appropriate assessment tools? Number 1. Measuring the desired level of performance, level of satisfaction, productivity, efficiency, student performance. Number 2. Cost effective in terms of effort, time, and money. Number 3. Useful that will produce results that provide information that can be used in making decisions to improve student learning.
Number 4.
Reasonably accurate and fruitful. Number 5. Dependable. Consistent response over time. And number 6. Evidence of being ongoing, not once and done.
Creating and utilizing rubrics. The content of our report, we are going to discuss the definition of rubrics, the types and uses of rubrics, the benefits and the challenges of rubrics, development of scoring rubrics and template for rubrics. One of the alternative methods of rating performance of the students aside from paper and pencil test is the use of scoring rubric or rubrics. So what is rubrics? Rubrics is a scoring guide with criteria for evaluating students' work in direct relation to one or more of the program's learning outcomes, and a rating scale indicating differing levels of performance. Rubrics is a rating system by which teachers can determine at what level of proficiency of a student is able to perform task or display knowledge of a concept, and you can define the different levels of proficiency for each criterion. We have the two types of rubrics, the holistic rubrics and the analytic rubric. Holistic rubric, it is the single criteria rubrics or one-dimensional used to assess participants' overall achievements level. Provides a single score based on an overall impression of learner achievement on a task. Holistic rubric is a type of rubric that requires the teachers to score the overall process or product as a whole. A teacher can use holistic rubric when she wants a quick snapshot of the performance of the students. A single dimension is already adequate to define the quality of the performance of the student. Analytic rubric. It is the two-dimensional levels of achievement as columns and assessment criteria as rows. Allows you to assess participants' achievement based on a multiple criteria using rubric. Provides specific feedback along several dimensions. Analytic rubric is a type of rubric that provides information regarding performance in each component part of a task, making it useful for diagnosing specific strengths and weaknesses of the learners. The teacher can use analytic rubric when she wants to see the relative strength and weaknesses of the student's performance in each criterion. A detailed feedback and assess complicated performance, and also if the teacher wants the student to conduct self-assessment on their understanding about their performance. The benefits and the challenges of rubrics. The benefits of rubrics, it establishes where expectation and assessment practices, especially when faculty members collaborate to develop them. It can be used to evaluate students' work consistently. Make it more efficient to assess multi-phased examples of students' work or performance. The challenges of rubrics, it takes time and effort to develop. It needs to include description of a specific area and preferably exemplars of students' work to benchmark different levels of performance. It may be less precise measures because of the broad range of performance within each specified level.
Development of scoring rubrics. Steps in developing rubrics used in the assessment of performances, process, and products. First step, re-examine the learning objectives to be addressed by the task. This means to make sure that the objectives are aligned to the evaluation or performance task and it is suited for the abilities of the pupils. Second step, identify specific observable attributes that you want to see your students demonstrate in their product, process, or performance. This means so that you can find it hard in identifying the domain that you are given to your pupils. Third step, brainstorm characteristics that describe each attribute. Excuse me. This means you will know if it is achievable or attainable, or they can easily follow the rubrics. For holistic rubrics, write through narrative descriptions for excellent work and poor work in incorporating each attribute into the description. Write descriptions for all intermediate levels of performance. For analytic rubrics, write through narrative descriptions for excellent work and poor work, incorporating each individual attribute. Write description for all intermediate levels of performance for each attribute. Fourth step, collect sample of student work that exemplify each level. This means to know the level of progress. Fifth step, revise the rubric as necessary. This means it is because it depends upon the level of your student. Do not follow in toto on what is in the rubrics. Just simplify and make it attainable. In this slide, we can see the template of holistic rubric. Holistic rubrics has 8 parts. The first part is the scale and scoring. The scale and scoring can be put on the side or upper part of the rubric, and like analytic rubric, we can use qualitative and quantitative skills, or maybe the combination of qualitative and quantitative. The other part is the performance descriptor. Unlike in analytic rubric, it is not specified to the criteria or component needed. The performance descriptor of holistic rubric is combined and more generalized than analytic rubric. Consequently, the performance descriptor we put in every scale and scoring is the scale and scoring is the overall or pinagsama-sama ng iba't ibang description ng criteria or component na hanapin natin sa mga mag-aaral upang makakuha sila ng markang iyon.
Again, good day everyone. Now I will discuss about the electronic portfolio. According to Zimmerman 2012, an electronic portfolio, which is also known as e-portfolio, digital portfolio, or online portfolio, is a collection of electronic evidence assembled and managed by a user, usually on the web. Additionally, ePortfolio includes input text, electronic files, images, multimedia, blog entries, and hyperlinks. ePortfolios are both demonstrations of the user's abilities and platforms for self-expression. In other words, electronic portfolio is a digital collection and compilation of students' course-related work that will determine students' learning. Yes, e-portfolio can determine students' learning. Therefore, electronic portfolio is considered as a form of assessment in today's educational context. As such, electronic portfolios can be classified into 5 types, namely ideal portfolio, showcase or professional e-portfolios, documentation portfolios, learning portfolios, and evaluation or assessment e-portfolios. First, we have the ideal portfolio, which contains all works of the students. However, it is not given to provide students a grade. When we say ideal portfolio, it is merely a complete digital collection of the students' school-related work and not the basis for grading system. Ideal portfolios focuses on the portfolio as a complete collection of digital works. Next is the showcase or professional e-portfolios, which is a primarily way to demonstrate the highlights of a student. It demonstrates exemplary works and skills, illustrates experience and achievements, and it focuses on the portfolio as a product. Following is the documentation portfolio, which involves a collection of work over time showing growth and improvement, reflecting students' learning or identified outcomes. Documentation portfolio demonstrates a work in progress. It includes self-assessment and reflection, and it focuses on the portfolio as a process that emphasizes reflection.
Learning e-portfolios. Typically created by a student as a part of learning activity as a way to demonstrate learning process. So it was said that it is created by a students in order for them to know their learning progress. So these learning e-portfolios help the students to record their work, goals, and achievement in order for them to reflect on their learning. So these learning e-portfolios, as often shared with other student to elicit peer feedback. These learning e-portfolios support the idea of formative feedback as an essential part of the learning process. So these learning e-portfolios provide information and feedback to both students and teacher to know the teacher's teaching process and the students' learning progress. Lastly, evaluation or assessment e-portfolios. So the teacher may utilize this for both formative and summative assessment feedback. So it was tackled on the different types of assessment, the formative and summative assessment. So these both provide feedback and information that sums up the teaching and learning process. So it provides teachers on the quality of evidence students use in their portfolios to demonstrate education competencies.